You told someone your plan once. Maybe it was a friend, maybe a family member, someone you trusted enough to let in on what you've been building in your head for months. And they did that thing, that pause, that slight tilt of the head followed by a smile that wasn't really a smile. They said something like, "That's interesting," or "Wow, good luck with that," and then changed the subject so fast you could feel the air move. You walked away and didn't bring it up again. Not to them, not to anyone. And later that night, alone with your phone in your hand, you almost deleted the notes you'd been keeping, almost talked yourself out of the whole thing, because for a split second, their doubt felt more real than your vision. That moment, that exact silence after someone dismisses what matters most to you, is where most people's ambitions go to die. The hardest part of building something with no support isn't the work. It's the loneliness of the work. It's sitting at your desk at 11 at night, knowing that nobody in your life understands what you're doing or why you're doing it. It's watching your friends spend their weekends doing normal things while you pour hours into something that hasn't paid off yet and might not for a long time. It's carrying a dream that feels enormous inside your chest, but sounds delusional the second you try to explain it out loud. The isolation isn't a side effect of the path, it is the path. And the people who succeed without a safety net aren't the ones who found a way around that loneliness. They're the ones who learn to build inside of it. Nietzsche understood this in a way that most motivational thinking completely misses. He didn't talk about finding your tribe or surrounding yourself with people who believe in you. He talked about what happens when nobody believes in you and you keep going anyway. He called it self-overcoming. And the word matters because it acknowledges what most advice refuses to. Sometimes there is no support. Sometimes the people closest to you are not on your side, not because they're bad people, but because your ambition makes them uncomfortable in ways they don't have the language to explain. Your desire to become something more is, whether you intend it or not, an indirect accusation against everyone who stopped trying. And people don't forgive that quietly. You'll notice it in small ways first. The friend who used to ask about your project and stopped. The family member who brings up a safer career path every time you see them, framed as concern but functioning as pressure. The partner who says they support you but sighs every time you stay up late working. None of these people are trying to destroy you. They're trying to pull you back into the world they understand. The one where people stay realistic and don't risk too much and measure success by stability rather than meaning. And the painful truth is that their version of love requires your smallness, not because they're cruel, but because your growth threatens the equilibrium they've built their comfort around. This is where most people break, not at the point of failure, but at the point of withdrawal. When the people you expected to champion you quietly step back, something inside you starts to question whether the whole thing was a mistake. You start seeing your ambition through their eyes, and suddenly it looks reckless, immature, selfish. You wonder if maybe they're right, and you've been deluding yourself. That doubt is the most dangerous force you'll ever face, more dangerous than any competitor or obstacle, because it wears your own voice. It doesn't come at you from the outside. It colonizes your thinking and starts speaking from within. And unless you've trained yourself to recognize it, you'll mistake it for wisdom. Nietzsche would tell you that this doubt is not a flaw in your character. It is the herd speaking through you. He spent his career describing how societies maintain control, not through force, but through internalized pressure, a kind of gravitational pull toward the average that operates below conscious awareness. You don't need to be punished for standing out. You just need to feel alone long enough, unsupported long enough, questioned long enough, and eventually you'll punish yourself. You'll scale back the vision. You'll adjust the timeline. You'll start using phrases like maybe someday and when the time is right. And those phrases will feel like patience, but they're actually surrender dressed in responsible language. The people who succeed with zero support do something that looks almost irrational from the outside. They treat their own conviction as sufficient evidence, not arrogantly, not blindly, but with a kind of quiet, stubborn clarity that says, I have seen something real, and I am going to act on it whether or not anyone else can see it yet. This is what Nietzsche meant when he talked about creating your own values. He wasn't describing rebellion for its own sake. He was describing what happens when a person realizes that the world's approval is not coming and decides to move forward without it. That decision, made in private with no audience and no applause, is the most powerful thing a human being can do. It is also the loneliest. There's a version of support that people crave but rarely name. It's not money or resources or connections. It's someone looking you in the eye and saying, I see what you're building, and I believe it's going to work. That sentence, if you've never heard it from someone who matters to you, leaves a hole that no amount of discipline can fully fill. And here's what nobody tells you about succeeding without support. You have to grieve that absence. You have to let yourself feel the weight of building alone without letting it stop you. Most advice skips this part entirely, jumps straight to be your own motivation, and discipline equals freedom, as if you can bypass the human need for recognition through willpower alone. You can't. What you can do is keep building while the ache is still there, which is harder and more honest than pretending it doesn't exist. Nietzsche didn't write for people who had everything figured out. He wrote for people who felt the gap between their internal world and external reality so sharply it kept them awake at night. He wrote for the ones who couldn't explain their ambition to the people around them, who carried visions that sounded grandiose in conversation, but felt necessary in solitude. He understood that the most important work in a person's life almost always begins in isolation. Not because isolation is romantic, but because the things worth building are usually invisible to everyone except the person building them. Your job is not to convince anyone. Your job is to create something so undeniable that conviction becomes irrelevant. So if you're watching this and you're building something alone, with no safety net, no cheerleaders, no one in your corner telling you it's going to be fine, understand that this is not a sign you're on the wrong path. It might be the clearest sign you're on the right one. The things that matter most are almost never supported in their early stages, because support requires understanding, and understanding requires visibility, and the early stages of anything real are invisible to everyone but you. The loneliness you feel is not a punishment. It's the cost of seeing something before anyone else can. And if you can hold that vision long enough, with enough stubborn, quiet, almost unreasonable faith, you won't need anyone's permission to become what you already know you are.